Hello, welcome to the Random Car channel. Today we're going to be changing the spark plugs in a 2011 Toyota Sienna. So this car has a V6 engine and it's mounted transversely, or I like to call it sideways. So there's going to be a bank of cylinders in front and a bank of cylinders in back, meaning that there'll be a set of spark plugs lined up across the front here and lined up across the back. We'll see how this goes. The front ones should be easy, but the ones in the back may require getting under the cowl here, so this might get in the way, but we'll see as we progress through this project. So I got a set of spark plugs here. What I'm using tonight is going to be some Autolite Iridium XP. I don't have any good recommendation on what spark plugs to get. I think the originals, my guess right now, is Denso on this car. Original, so you might want to get those. So this car has a little over 100,000 miles now. I think 102,000 miles. So it's around the time when you change the spark plugs. I think Toyota recommends it around 120 or 110,000, but close enough. I'm going to change them. Okay, so step one, let's snap off the engine cover. Okay, so that was easy. Okay, so you can see the coils right here. 1, 2, 3. And it looks like the other 3 are behind this intake manifold. I'm going to deal with the front ones first since they're easy, and then work on the back ones next. Alright, so step 1, let's unplug the coils. So you would just squeeze the tab here and pull off the harness. 1. So that's pretty easy. Make sure you note the location of each of these. Don't mix up the order of these plugs because you'll screw up the firing order and your car won't run correctly. But it's hard to mess up because they basically wired this out around the location where you want it. Okay, next we take off one bolt from the coil pack. It's a 10mm bolt, so just remove that. Next, we pull out the coil pack. Two. Oh. I have a 5/8" spark plug socket. Spark plug socket has a little rubber thing in there, so that'll help pick up the spark plug as you lift it, and also protects that that ceramic body on a spark plug so you won't damage it. So get an extension and a spark plug socket and just remove. Okay, so the first 3 spark plugs are out. Let's put in a new one. So these spark plugs come pre-gapped, so you don't have to mess with the gapping on this. Just install. Okay, so I put a little anti-seize on it, so that one day when you change the spark plugs again, hopefully it won't be stuck. So you just do the same, install. So careful not to bump this anywhere, even when installing. You don't want to bump the electrode at the tip, so that way you don't mess with the gap. You want to keep the gap the same since it's very pre-measured. Install carefully, make sure it goes in smoothly. You don't want to cross thread it or you'll end up with ruining your threading in your head. So that's screwed in. So in terms of torquing it down, it's usually like 15 foot-pounds of torque, so it's not very strong, or you don't have to be too tight. I just do a hand tight. Don't crank down on it. Like that. Getting to the back. So if you look into the depths of this engine bay, we want to get way back there. So you know, all this cowl is sort of in the way because you want to get even beyond that cowl and down into the engine. So the next step is to really take all this stuff out. I think also take off this manifold and be able to gain access to the back of this. So let the fun begin. So first step, I think we're going to have to take off the windshield wiper and this big plastic cowl. So to get the windshield wiper off, you need to unbolt the 14mm bolt on top. This whole plastic panel is clipped in, so you just gotta pop it out of the clips. Okay, next is to get this whole metal tray out of there. Okay, so looks like it's held down by a bunch of bolts on this side. You can see a bolt here, bolt there, bolt over there. Looks like you gotta get this off the strut tower, so you might have to remove these two bolts. Okay, so I'm making progress. I could get a good wiggle on this side. So just to recap, there was a screw here, 10mm, 14mm, 10mm, and another 10mm. So I'm going to go work on the driver's side next. Okay, so there's some windshield wiper assembly on this side. I'm going to attempt to try to take the tray out with the windshield wiper assembly on it. So basically I'm not going to take apart the windshield wiper assembly. Let's see how far I could get with that. Okay, so you know the part I said I was not gonna remove the windshield wiper assembly. Apparently, I just did. Okay, so to recap the screws on this side of the car, there was a screw behind this trim that was holding down the windshield wiper assembly. Another one down here for the windshield wiper assembly. Those were 10 millimeters. Two 14 millimeter bolts on the tower strut. There was one 10 millimeter right there. Another 10 millimeter here. And there's a 10 millimeter there holding the wiper assembly. And don't forget to disconnect this little wire to the windshield. And then I think I covered all the screws. So since there's a wiring harness kind of clipped on here, I don't really know how to where it disconnects and whatnot. My plan is just to pivot out this whole tray this way, so that way I could get clearance on that side of the engine. Alright, so let me pivot out this tray. Okay, so there is also one more I forgot. Disconnect a little wiring harness to this little hot box here. Okay, so this is out of the way enough. I could get access back there now. The plan is to remove this manifold. Looks like I want to disconnect this. Take this bolt out. Take this Allen wrench out. Take it Allen wrench back there. Another Allen here. Another Allen back here. And this bolt here. We're going to pull a bunch of hoses and get the throttle body off. Alright, so I think I'm going to start on this side and then work my way towards that side, getting stuff off. So some of the easier stuff to get off is probably like these hoses, like that. This one, like that. See, that one's off. So those are pretty easy. This one has a clamp on it. I'll try not to do that for now. I'll take this off. Alright, so got the hoses off. Let's work on the throttle body. Okay, so I removed the throttle body. There were 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts, 10 millimeter bolts that went in here through the throttle body. And so next, I'm going to move down here I already took out this one bolt, 10mm nut, and there are going to be these hex Allen wrench type bolts here I'm going to remove. So there's one here, one back there, one here, one back there, and then a 10mm nut. I got all these bolts out in front, and this thing, there's, it wiggles a bit, so it looks like the front's more or less out. And plug this one. Now I'm going to just put this, my camera to the back of the manifold, just to see what's going on in terms of the bolt situation. Put the phone back here. You see this, this black bracket here? And it connects to the manifold right here. So if you see the bolt, so I think I'm gonna unbolt the one at the bottom. That looks like a better angle to work with, but we'll see. So after futzing around a bit, the bolt in the back here is a 12mm, and I wasn't able to get a socket in, so I'm going to be using a good old-fashioned open-end wrench. Okay, so I got that one bolt out. Lots of progress. Feels like one more bolt on that side. So I'll go fish around for a bolt on that side. After feeling around a bit, I feel a bolt right behind this throttle body here. It feels like it's attached right here below, so I'm going to try removing that bolt back there. So I found a hose holding this thing together, so I'm going to disconnect that hose from the manifold. Okay, so the bracket where I unbolted the lower bolt is keeping me from taking this manifold out, so I'm going to unbolt the other bolt on the bracket now. Okay, all the bolts are off, the bracket's off. Now let's see if I could pull out the manifold. So now, even with the top of the engine off, now you can see there's actually a bit of a slant of the engine towards the back, and the spark plugs are back there, like right along the firewall. What an awesome design. Not only did they put the engine sideways, they tilted it backwards. So now your spark plugs are like down in that crack back there. But I could see, you can see the tubing here that feeds into the coils up front. You can see the same tubing back there feeding into the coils back there. So essentially, repeat what you did up front with the coils, and take the one bolt off of each coil. I think it was 10mm, and pull the coil. Well, don't forget to unplug the coil pack, like with the front here. Unplug the coil pack, take the bolt off, pull the coil out, get a socket in there, and pull out the spark plug. Alright, so I'm going to go start digging into the back there. Got the new plugs in. Coil packs are back on. Bolted them back down. Plugged in the wiring harness. So changing the spark plugs in the back was a major pain in the... Alright, so let's put things back together. So the most important part of putting this thing back together is making sure you get all the hoses and the harnesses and the plugs and whatnot plugged in and, you know, back in the right place. Because if it's in the wrong place or you forgot to plug something in, this car will not run right. Alright, so let's begin the process of putting it all back together again. Before you start buttoning stuff up, this is the part where you could start the engine and test it out. See if you know, all your hoses, sensors, and whatnot are connected. So here's the moment of truth here. Okay, so it seems that the spark plug change went well. Engine started. It was smooth. Felt like there was 20 more horsepower sitting there. So it looks like we're good to go in putting back everything back together. Okay, so that was the spark plug change on a 2011 Toyota Sienna minivan with the V6 engine. So that was a tough job actually. Took a lot of work to get to the spark plugs in the back. This is the toughest one I've done yet. But I got to say, this is the first time I worked on a V6 engine that's sideways in the car. Make sure you dedicate a lot of time to this project. I think this took me... Let's see, this took me about maybe 3 to 4 hours to do. And I would say, what, the front spark plugs took about 5 minutes and the rear spark plugs took 3 to 4 hours. Yeah, please like, click subscribe, put any questions you got in the comments below, and thanks for watching. Good luck on your next project.